So Lewis representation basically it helps you figure out, like it's a very rough idea of how atoms form molecules. So दोनों के बीच में how many electrons are shared? Is it like a single bond or a double bond? How many single bonds are there? How many double bonds are there? So it just follows the most basic rule. It simply is based on octet rule. Ki as long as each atom has 8 electrons in its outermost shell, or in the case of hydrogen, like 2 electrons in a, like as long as it has a fully filled valence shell, yeah, so that would be the structure. So that's what it is completely based on. Okay. I'll so Lewis dot structures for carbon monoxide and sulfate ion. So last class I had done it for nitrite ion, NO2 minus के लिए. Abhi I'll take nitrate ion, or like I'll do it for one of these only, like we'll do it for carbon monoxide, and iske baad you guys can try it out for sulfate ion on your own. Okay, so I'll discuss both of them, but carbon monoxide I will do it here on the board, and sulfate I want you guys to try it out, then baad mein we'll discuss what the thing is. Okay, so carbon monoxide formula kya hai? What all elements do you have in carbon monoxide?
Carbon and
oxygen.
Carbon and
Carbon and
oxygen.
oxygen.
Formula, what is the formula? CO2 क्या है?
CO2. CO.
हाँ?
CO.
CO. Carbon monoxide.
Sorry.
ठीक है. All right. So first step, how many electrons do we have totally in carbon monoxide? Valence electrons. So carbon में valence electrons कितने हैं?
4.
4.
And how many on
4. Yeah.
6? So total we've got 10 electrons.
10.
Do we have any charge on carbon monoxide? Positive, negative, ऐसे?
No, ma'am. I think it's a neutral atom.
Neutral
compound.
Haan, it's a
Yeah.
neutral molecule, no charge. This is not an ion, so no more extra electrons. All right. So now these 10 electrons we have to distribute between carbon and oxygen such that both of them have octet, like 8 electrons with them. Okay. So I'll put down, we have carbon, we have oxygen. दोनों के बीच में, if it's a molecule, minimum 1 bond has to be there. So I'll put 2 electrons that are being shared between both. Okay. So 10 में से 2 electrons I've assigned. So remaining 8 electrons are there. So to start with, I'll just distribute the 8 electrons on both of these atoms. So oxygen के लिए already 2 electrons है इसके पास, ये share करे दोनों. It needs 6 more for completed octet. So I'll add 6 more as 3 pairs of electrons. Now that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 2 more left. So the 2 I'll give it to carbon here. Now oxygen octet aa gaya, 8 electrons, because that's how I've assigned. But does carbon have an octet here?
No.
No. So carbon has only 1, 2, 3, 4 electrons for itself. So we need to give it additional electrons. तो फिर ये single bond को let's make it a double bond.
You make it a double bond. Yeah.
हाँ. 3, 4. Abhi, because these 4 electrons are being shared between both, oxygen still has octet. Now how many does carbon have?
6 electrons. So like.
Abhi bhi it's not satisfied. So then what do we do?
Take one more pair out of oxygen.
Yes.
And make it a triple bond.
Yes. So add a third pair. So basically they're sharing a total of 6 electrons between them. So now oxygen also has octet, carbon also has octet. Okay. So this would be the final structure of CO. You can write, it can be written this way. So this would be the Lewis structure for carbon monoxide. So that's exactly what you do. So you take all of the electrons apart. If it's a cation, positive charge matlab there is deficiency of electrons, इसलिए positive आया. So you need to subtract those many number of electrons, how much ever the charge you find. Like for example, if you had ammonium NH4 plus hai, so you take the total number of valence electrons of nitrogen and 4 hydrogens and subtract 1 because एक positive charge है, मतलब एक electron कम है इसलिए it's getting a positive charge. And if it's an anion, negative charge कहाँ से आ रहा है? It has those many number of extra electrons. So you add whatever is the charge. Like for example, when you're doing it for sulfate, sulfate का formula क्या है?
SO4 2 minus.
SO4.
Absolutely. SO4 2 minus. So when we're talking about sulfate ion, don't forget this also, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're calculating the total number of electrons, you have valence electrons of sulfur and the 4 oxygen, and then add these 2 extra electrons because it's got 2 units of negative charge, मतलब वो electrons की वजह से आ रहा है. So it has 2 extra electrons here. So cation है तो subtract electrons, anion है तो you add electrons.
Ma'am, just a second. I forgot sulfate ion has 4 oxygens. So like that'll be 6 into 4, right? When we do that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So once you get the total number of electrons, start by arranging it so that the least electronegative atom is in the center. Carbon monoxide में ये problem नहीं हुआ because there are only 2 of them. But when you have sulfate, phosphate, nitrates and all, least electronegative, that so it's basically it's the atom other than oxygen, in this case sulfate, center में लगाओ. Arrange all of them around. Start by putting minimum single bonds and then distribute the electrons. Okay, I'll give you guys like 1-2 minutes. Attempt sulfate on your own. फिर WhatsApp पे image भेजो and then I'll solve it. I'll do it here and I'll show you what is the structure of sulfate. But I want you guys to do one attempt. Like all of you attempt it in your book and send it on WhatsApp. Come on, quickly send it.
Ma'am, in the group only.
Either way, as long as I get to see it. If you want, इधर कैमरा ऑन करके यहाँ पे भी दिखा सकते हो, if it is clear, if it's bright enough.
If you can see.
This instead of
एक मिनट. Yeah, Dhriti?
yeah, okay. I just wanted to ask, instead of dots, can I draw lines between S and O?
Yeah. So once you figured out the electrons, draw the lines, but also put the lone pair of electrons. हाँ? अगर कोई extra lone pair of electrons है, तो indicate them. Whichever is in the bond, there you can draw the lines, no problem. Okay, Mayas, can you just एक minute, huh? Let me just, yeah. S O O O. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so abhi SO4 2 minus sulfate ion hai na. So when you're representing ions, around is a structure.
Negative charge.
Yeah, so just draw two square brackets and indicate the charge. That's all.
And the minus charge would be inside the box or outside the?
Outside. So you're just saying कि overall पूरा structure पे दो negative charge है. So this is how you.
Okay.
Ma'am, could
This is
you
entered
check
on the group.
that? Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat that? What happened?
I sent
Could
it
you
on the
check
group.
WhatsApp?
Ah, okay. Mitali and Dhriti have sent. Okay. So चारों तरफ single bonds ही है. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Total कितने electrons है? We have
42, ma'am.
6 4s are 24 plus sulfur के around be another 6. So that's
6
30
and plus 2.
plus 2, 32. In your structure, Mithali, 6 4s are 24. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 24 plus 8, 32. Okay. Okay. Ishita has also sent in. There
Ma'am, I have
could
a
be
doubt.
double bond, so I don't know. Yeah.
We've included the 2 minus as in the extra 2 electrons in our structure only. We do that, right? Or we like externally write it?
I didn't get you. What?
I mean, you
What
saw
do you
my
mean?
structure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like the 2 minus charge, we have to indicate it, right? Even after like we added the 2 electrons in our structure.
Yeah. So you need to enclose the structure in a square bracket and then yeah.
Okay.
So the way Ishita has shown it. So that's how you indicate the charge. Okay. Yeah, so based on Lewis postulates, Tarannum, you mentioned 2 minus on sulfur, right? Now the 2 extra electrons are there in the whole overall structure. So I'll just show how to indicate it. Sid and Ishita have mentioned it. So that's how you show it over there. Okay. So sulfate ion is annotate. Okay. Sulfate is SO4 2 minus. So the total number of electrons will be S ka is so S is 32, 6 electrons in the outermost shell plus 4 into 6 plus 2 because of the negative charge. So that's 32 electrons. Again, S will be in the center. Arrange the 4 oxygens around it. S is less electronegative than oxygen, तो ऐसे arrange होगा. Start by distributing the electrons. Now, so out of 32, we have used up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these electrons. So we are left with 24 electrons. So distribute the remaining of them also around oxygen. 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. Okay. So now does this account for all of the electrons that we have? 6 from sulfur. So 32. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 8 fours are 32. And then just enclose this whole thing in a bracket with a 2 minus ka charge. Okay. So according to like Lewis-Cossel structure, this ideally has to be the structure of sulfate ion, because this way sabka, like all of the atoms are getting their octet, what do you call it, octet, uh, क्या बोलते हैं, satisfied. All of them have 8 electrons in their outermost shell. But the thing is, sulfur itself has 6 electrons, right? So it's not gonna lose or give away 2 of its electrons outside. Like, okay, this is what we do as per our calculation. Like, okay, 32 electrons है, सब में distribute करना पड़ेगा. But sulfur starts off with 6 electrons on its own also. So how do you account for like those 6 like extra 2? Like in this structure we see that sulfur has 4 electrons only, and the other 4 are coming from oxygen, being shared by oxygen. Now you can't take away those 2 electrons from sulfur वैसे. Sulfur will still retain its 6 electrons, and somehow these electrons also will be shared with oxygen. So how do you account for it? So when you're drawing structures like this, like in the case of nitrite and in the case of carbon monoxide, because they had like 5 electrons, 4 electrons, kam number the, by distributing the lone pairs, wo to satisfy ho gaya. Like we didn't have to raise that point. But in the case of sulfur, now because it has 6 electrons, we need to start off with 6 electrons initially itself. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 electrons. And assume that, oh yeah, these electrons are also being shared with oxygen. So basically, इसके structure में, sulfate के structure में, you will have 2 double bonds with 2 double bonded oxygen and 2 single bonded oxygen with an extra 2- charge over it. So this will be the correct structure for sulfate ion. Okay, so that is one like one more point, like one extra thing that you guys need to take care of is that all of the atoms will have to retain their original number of electrons when they form bonds.
I didn't get it because now sulfur has 12.
So yeah, that's a very good point. Like that will actually take us to the next point. Like this is a point where Lewis-Cossel model actually failed. So this is a classic example of a place where an atom has more than 8 electrons. Similarly, we're going to come across some other molecules that have less than 8 electrons, yet they're able to form the compounds. So there's something called electron deficient compounds and electron rich compounds. So this was a point that Lewis-Cossel structure was not able to explain. But yeah, so this is the structure of sulfate ion. And the reason why sulfur is able to form these many number of bonds is, again, it is because of its electronic structure. So we're going to revisit that later when we talk about the next theory that is put forward, which is VSEPR theory, VSEPR. Okay. But do you guys get the reason why we had changed the structure? Like पहले पूरा single bond पे satisfy हो रहा था, but why we have changed that? Like why we did not consider that, and instead this would be the correct structure? Like, did you guys understand why we need the double bonds here and the single bonds here?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, it's only based on its valence shell, right? Because it has 6
Yes.
valence electrons in its outermost shell.
Absolutely, yeah. So valence shell में sulfur has 6 electrons. It's not going to give away any electrons. It's not going to lose electrons. So it absolutely has to have minimum of 6 electrons around it when it is forming bonds. Okay. So that's why its structure will be modified in this way. So going to the next part. Yeah, so these are the answers. So carbon monoxide, and this is the sulfate ion. Enclose it, mention the charge. So another concept, formal charge. So the formal charge on an atom is equal to the total number of valence electrons in a free atom minus the total number of lone pair electrons minus half of the total number of shared pair of electrons. So formal charge is basically, so in ionic compounds, charge on a particular atom, like uska electrovalence kya hai, that is pretty straightforward because it is either losing or gaining electrons. But in the case of covalent compounds, it is sharing electrons, right? So it's not completely losing electrons, but at the same time, the electron that it has itself is not its own. It is sharing with another compound, which means that, you know, like the overall charge has decreased somewhat. So, so this is basically formal charge of an atom, like basically for formality. Okay, so if it is sharing 2 electrons, then obviously it is losing some part of its own electrons because it is sharing with a different atom. So this would basically, it's basically like a calculated value for the charge. Okay. So here's an example. So this is where you calculate the formal charge on carbon and oxygen and carbon monoxide. So if you want to calculate it for carbon, so the total number of valence electrons in free atom, so carbon originally has 4 valence electrons, minus the total number of lone pair of electrons. Now these electrons are not taking part in bonding, which is why we want to remove them. We don't want to consider them in our charge calculation. So 2 of these electrons we will not count, so minus 2, minus half of the total number of shared pair of electrons. So the total number of shared pair of electrons is 6, triple bond hai, 6 pairs of electrons is being shared with oxygen, uska आधा. So divided by half, like half of 6 is equal to, calculate करने पे -1 होगा. So the formal charge on carbon will be -1. Similarly, can you calculate what the formal charge on oxygen will be in carbon monoxide?
It will be +1.
+1.
That's why it's a neutral compound, ma'am, or molecule.
Ideally, it should be +1, yes.
Yeah.
So calculate करके भी देखो पर.
Ma'am, it's +1 only. 6 minus 2
+1.
minus 3.
Yes. ठीक है. So 6 valence electrons minus single lone pair minus 2 is 4, minus half of 6 is 3, +1. So what is the significance of on these formal charges? Like इससे क्या पता चल रहा है?
It shows whether your molecule is neutral or like positive, like a cation or an anion.
Absolutely. So formal charges add करके you can figure out neutral, positive,
Yeah.
or negative. What else can you infer from this? So यहाँ पे कार्बन पे
If
-1
it's
है.
reactive or not, I don't know.
Kind of in a different way. So another
Yeah,
thing
but
you
it's
can figure out is that oxygen पे +1 है formal charge and carbon पे formal charge is -1, right? Contrast this with a molecule like let's take Cl2. So you've got Cl, single bond Cl, इसके ऊपर you have 3 lone pairs, इसके ऊपर you have 3 lone pairs. अभी इस chlorine atom पे what is the formal charge? Calculate quickly. So original 7 valence electrons है, उसमें से 1 2 3 4 5 6 of them
0.
minus half of one shared pair, right? यहाँ पे इस पे 0 है.
Oh wait, so 0.5. No, but
0.5
ma'am, if you
कैसे?
do like
नहीं,
half.
2. Half of 2 is 1.
exactly.
Yeah.
I thought I did
This
something
do
wrong.
this thing. नहीं.
Yeah, 0.
That is equal to 0. तो इस पे 0 है. Similarly, इस chlorine पे भी 0 होगा. So based on this,
Oh,
what
it
can you
hints
infer?
about electronegativity, as in where the shared pair of electron lies. I don't know.
You're close, yes. So it gives you how the electrons are shared between both the atoms. So in the case
Okay.
of chlorine, the 2 electrons are evenly shared. But in the case of carbon oxygen, so carbon पे extra negative charge आ रहा है, oxygen is like losing the electronic charge that it already has. So basically oxygen, this one pair of electrons is basically oxygen is sharing one of its lone pairs with carbon. So it's basically unevenly shared in the case of carbon monoxide. So it gives you an idea of how the electron pairs are shared between both the atoms. Like, are they perfectly evenly shared, or is it like, is the sharing uneven? It kind of gives you a kind of an idea about that. And another another, what do you call it? Okay, so let's look at sulfate ion. Okay, so I told you this is the actual structure, but if you go, exactly by the book, another way of figuring out sulfate ka what do you call structure was this one, right? Single bonds around this, and oxygen has all octet. Can you calculate what is the formal charge of sulfur in both these cases? A and B. So A में
0.
0. So
I
A
know
में
in
कितना है,
B
B
it's
में
0.
कितना है?
B it's 0, but I think it should be the same.
So in this, valence electrons free atom 6 होना चाहिए, minus कोई lone pairs नहीं है, तो 0, minus half of 8 electrons are being shared.
4. Okay.
So 6 minus 8, no, 4 is plus 2. And in this case, we've got 6
That is 0.
minus 0 minus half
6.
of 12. Huh?
12.
12. So 6.
This is 0. Okay. So another important point about formal charge is that, so the structure which has lowest amount of formal charge is the most stable structure. Yeah. So the lowest energy structure or the most stable structure is the one which has the smallest formal charges on the atoms. Okay. So these are like the two significant or basically like these are the two main inferences that you can get from formal charge, is that one is when you calculate the formal charge on each of the atoms, the most stable structure, so basically the most likely structure that the molecule exists as, will be the one which has the smallest formal charges. So as like, how do you understand this is that if the formal charges, like as low as you keep the charge, the more evenly the electrons are being shared, so that everybody is happy that way. So formal charge, like in the case of sulfate may, when you checked both of the cases, formal charge of sulfate with +2 indicates that it is deficient by 2 electrons. But formal charge became 0 with the double bond, with the structure that included the double bond double bonded atoms. So that way, like obviously 2 is less than 0, so that would be the more stable structure rather than sulfur losing 2 of its electrons. Another thing is it is based on pure covalent view of the bonding, in which electron pairs are shared equally by the neighboring atoms. Okay. So this is basically the kind of inference that we saw. So this is important, like basically if as long as the electron, okay, so this will lead to another property in bonding called polarity of the bonds. So when like Lewis-Coasel structure, when you're drawing it, we're saying that acha, electrons are shared between both of them. And the reason why we are including the half, like formula may half of the total number of shared pair of electrons, is because we are assuming that, oh yeah, if carbon is putting in one electron, oxygen is putting in one electron, both the atoms are actually sharing both of them equally with each other. But in reality, that is not the case, because electronegativities of both the atoms are different, and we will see that one atom has the tendency to pull the electrons more than the other atom. Okay. So this is the concept of formal charge. So limitations, again, as we saw, Lewis-Coasel postulates or their explanation, they could not explain some molecules that have incomplete octet in the central atom. So incomplete octet in the sense, atoms like BCl3 or BF3. So boron trifluoride or boron trichloride. Now boron is a non-metal. It doesn't have positive nature. It doesn't tend to lose electrons to form ions. So these are basically covalent compounds only, and it has been checked experimentally also that these structures are covalent in nature. But if you check BCl3 and BF3, even if boron is forming FFFSA, it's having a maximum of 6 electrons. So now Lewis-Coasel structure, our main assumption is that octet is being formed. So this is not explained. This is one drawback of this theory. Odd electron molecules could not explain some molecules that have an odd number of electrons, like for example NO. N2O is laughing gas, so NO is another oxide of nitrogen. So N has 5 electrons, oxygen has 6 electrons. Lewis-Coasel say it's difficult, like because you have either lone pair of electrons or bond pair of electrons, right? So how are the electrons distributed in this case? There is no answer for that. Expanded octet or electron-rich molecules like sulfate ion, phosphate ion, yeah. So those kind of this thing, again, more than 8 electrons, that couldn't be explained. Now, octet rule is based on chemical inertness of noble gas configuration. So the assumption is that noble gas don't react because they have fully filled shells. They have like octet configuration. But there are some compounds with noble gases that have been identified. Like not all noble gases, but specifically only with xenon and krypton, and that too they form compounds only with extremely highly electronegative elements like fluorine and oxygen. So this particular property was also not explained, and octet rule does not account for shape, relative stability, and energy of the molecule. So it just gives you the structure key, how many electrons are being shared between two atoms, but it's not telling you any quantifiable data ki exact energy kitna hai is particular structure ka, and if there are two possible structures, then which one is more stable. Like nitrate ke case mein, we had seen that this is also possible, and double bond with the other oxygen is also possible. So is there one preferred more than the other? Like all of these, and what is the shape? Is it straight? Is it random? Like, the orientation of the molecule. So these are the points that Lewis-Cossel's postulates could not give an answer for. So that is the reason why more theories needed to be developed. So the next coming theory that's coming up is VSEPR, which we're going to see that it gives you the shape of the molecule. It gives you exact measurements of दो angles के बीच में bond कितना होगा and what is the length of the bond. Is one longer than the other? So all of those answers we're going to get with VSEPR. But before that, there are some points that we need to discuss. So talking about ionic bond, this is pretty simple. So ionic bonds we have discussed last class also. Like put simply, ionic bond is a bond between two ions. And how are ions formed? So
When they gain or lose an electron.
yes. So formation of a cation, इसमें the energy change associated is ionization enthalpy. So this particular value is going to decide how easy or difficult it is for this particular ion to be formed. Anion, the energy change associated is electron gain enthalpy. So this value is going to decide how easy or difficult is for the anion to be formed. Okay, and then when cation and anion come close to each other, they form an ionic compound as they are held with electrostatic forces of attraction. Okay, so this is like the most simplest way to show how ionic compounds are formed. So electron gain enthalpy, so delta Hg, so this particular value delta Heg is the change in energy when atom in gaseous phase gains an electron. Electron affinity is the negative value of electron gain enthalpy. So put simply, electron gain enthalpy just tells you what is the change in energy. Like negative value hai, to it means energy is released. Positive value hai, to it means energy is absorbed. So it just tells you what is the change in energy. Electron affinity is the negative value of electron gain enthalpy. So magnitude is pretty much the same between electron gain enthalpy and electron affinity, but we are removing the negative sign because by definition we're just saying whatever amount of energy is released. So basically we're taking just the magnitude of the change in enthalpy. Now based on these two energy changes, we can say that the conditions favorable for ionic bonds to form are low ionization enthalpy. Now, do you remember what is the definition of ionization enthalpy? Anyone?
The minimum amount of energy required to remove an electron from a neutral gaseous atom.
Yes. So if ionization enthalpy is low, what does that indicate?
That the electron can be easily removed.
Yes. So that would be favorable for ionic bond to form because that means cation is forming easily. Now what does this indicate? High electron affinity ka matlab?
Accepting electron very easily.
Yes. So high electron affinity matlab a high amount of energy is released when the atom accepts electron, which means that anion is more stable than the neutral atom. So forming the anion easily. Okay. Now in reality, like they literally measured the values for our favorite compound. If you measure it for formation of NaCl, if you add up the ionization enthalpy to form Na plus and the electron gain enthalpy to form like Cl minus, the total value is actually coming up to be positive. So energy change positive matlab the final is higher than the initial. So delta H greater than 0 का मतलब है the the H final is greater than H initial. इसलिए final minus initial positive हो गया. So अगर final is greater than initial मतलब, does it mean that energy is absorbed or energy is released?
Released.
Think about it. System
Absorbed.
में यहाँ पे H initial है, then process करने के बाद you've got H final, which is a higher energy. मतलब ये extra energy कहाँ से आया? So is it energy is absorbed or released?
Absorbed.
Absorbed. So it's an endothermic
Yeah.
reaction.
So if you're having to provide energy for a process to take place, or in this case, Na conversion to Na plus and conversion to Cl minus, if you have to give it extra energy, does that mean that like will the universe favor that process? Like will you say that, oh, NaCl is like it's logical, it's more stable because it'll be easily formed? Like, is that statement true?
Could you say it again?
So
No, actually.
So if you're giving energy to some process, like if you're having to give energy for a process to take place, like in this case, formation of NaCl के लिए, is it like easy or difficult? Like, do you think it will happen naturally because you're having to give it energy?
It could happen naturally.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty amount of energy present in the environment itself, so why not?
Again, plenty amount of energy, like without that initial spark or a catalyst,
Correct, then it
the
won't
universe,
happen.
yeah, it like, but formation of NaCl, like Na and Cl, if you put them together in like if you take gaseous Na and gaseous Cl such that the atoms are they can like collide with each other easily, NaCl does form. Like NaCl, we say it's a spontaneous process, like it can form easily. So where is this, what is this difference in thoughts, like kya ho raha hai? So the point here is like there is another component that you need to consider in the formation of ionic compounds. So stability of ionic compounds is decided by the ease of lattice formation and not just octet achievement. Okay, so in this process, these two describe the each of M and X, like Na and Cl, achieving octet configuration. But uske baad, there is also a factor of these two actually forming those electros, like actually forming that electrovalent bond, ionic bond with each other, na? Like there is also this part involved, the electrostatic forces of attraction. So it's not just the formation of ions, but also the part where they are attracted to each other is like that also contributes towards stability of the compound. Like that also contributes towards the overall energy changes that happen. Okay, so that particular energy is counted as lattice energy. So that happens when the lattice of that particular compound is formed. Have you guys heard of the word lattice before? You have, like we discussed this before, but can you explain how much exactly you know about lattice? Taranum says tightly packed particles. Yes. So
Oppositely charged ions tightly packed together, as Tarnum said.
so lattice basically relates to the packing of the particles. So in the case of ionic compounds, it's how the ions are packed, oppositely charged particles. But you also find lattice in the case of crystals and metals and any solid. As long as there's a solid structure, it means there is a lattice involved. Okay, so what is a lattice? So ionic solids, they settle into crystal structures. So how these structures are is decided by the size of the ions. So one, it's decided by size of the ions. Two, it is decided by the packing arrangements, like whatever way of packing is the most convenient. And there are a few other factors like the energy changes and the charges between the cation and anion, all of that. So lattice is basically the 3D geometrical arrangement of the ions. Now, all of your solid structures are not uh, solid in the same way. So for example, if they're pretty much the same size, one lattice structure can look something like this, all of them in a row, like a perfect cube kind of a structure. There can be another lattice structure, the way you see in a fruit market, like how oranges are arranged, alternating, like diagonal arrangement hai. Like you see pyramids of orange, right? So like the upar wala row, like these are basically in the grooves between the niche wala row ke particles. Another structure was like the first structure was like when they're directly in a straight line. So depending on the size of the ions and the packing arrangements and all that, you have so many different types of lattice structures. But yeah, so the way these solid particles are arranged, uh, how are these particles placed with respect to each other? So that is called a lattice structure. Okay. Now you have your cation and you have your anion. Like for example, NaCl ka lattice structure looks like this. MgCl2 ka lattice structure looks like this. Like Mg atoms are much smaller compared to the Cl atoms. So you can see that here. Now, in the formation of ionic compound, you have step 1, formation of your ions M plus and X minus, and step 2, the actual arrangement of these ions into a solid structure. So when they turn into a solid, like when they are packed in a particular crystal arrangement, there is a change in energy involved. So that particular change in energy is called lattice enthalpy. Okay. So the energy
Could you
associated,
please repeat it again?
yeah. So when you have ions like ionization enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy or electron affinity, so basically these basically measure formation of your cations and anions. Originally they're in the gaseous state, right? Neutral gaseous atom may say if you take away electron, you get a positively charged gaseous ion. Neutral gaseous atom may say if you add an electron, you get a negatively charged gaseous anion. So now these gaseous ions, they're just like floating in the space, but eventually these electrostatic forces of attraction take over and they automatically arrange themselves into the most convenient lattice structure. Okay. Now, in this process, the total energy involved when they were independent gaseous ions to their conversion into a solid structure like the salt crystal that we see, there is an energy change involved in this process. So if you calculate the total energy associated with them existing as independent cations and anions, and if you count like how much energy is in the lattice structure, like after they form the lattice structure, you can see there is a difference in energy and there is energy released in this process. So this particular energy is called lattice enthalpy. So it like pretty obvious, right? Lattice enthalpy, because it is the energy associated with the formation of a lattice. Do you guys like, are you guys do you guys understand what do you mean by energy associated with this stage versus this stage? नहीं तो I can get into it इसलिए.
No, I think if we can get into it, it'll be more
Is
Okay.
it temperature, right?
Absolutely. So temperature and a few other things. So every single thing in the universe has energy. Like, does that make sense? Like sun,
Yes, ma'am.
matter, everything has energy because
Yeah.
there's something called internal energy. How many of you have heard of internal energy pehle?
It's like total energy minus something. I forgot.
Formula ne, like what do you mean by internal energy? Like what do you understand by internal
The
energy?
average kinetic energy of a system.
Yeah.
That you guys are aware of. So basically internal energy is all matter is made up of atoms and particles, right? Now these atoms, particles are like vibrating, moving with some energy, like they have a kinetic energy associated with them. So wahi kinetic theory of gases tha na. So even solids, liquids have it. They can't move, they don't have translational kinetic energy, but they definitely do have their vibrational kinetic energy. They're constantly moving. So it's like the sum total of all of these energies that the particles themselves have. And in this particular case, when you have ions, like if you have a Na plus ion and a Na plus ion, दोनों के बीच में repulsive forces होगा. Now if they are repelling each other, like if they are applying force, matlab they have some sort of potential energy associated with them. Like potential energy, if you go against gravity, like you have to apply force against gravity, there is a potential energy associated with it. So that way, even in the case of electrostatic forces, as long as you're working against a force, you need some sort of energy to do that activity, to do that work, right? So it's basically the sum total of all of these different small kinds of energies put together. So that's what I mean by energy of this system versus energy of the system. So when these ions are packed together, like when the electrovalent bonds are being formed, when the lattice is being formed in this particular arrangement, because this is more stable, like the repulsive forces are minimized, which is why there is energy being given out. That's why you say, okay, this lattice is pretty stable, as compared to when they're just like independent ions just moving against each other wherever. Okay. So the same is with formation of ions also. Like because you are doing some sort of work, like when you're removing electron, you're acting against the attractive forces of the nucleus. So you have to like spend energy in doing that. And when you're adding an electron, you're giving into like the attractive forces of the nucleus, which is why there is amount of energy released. And then completely filled orbitals related to the electronic configuration also, there is some amount of energy being increased, decreased, all of that. Okay, so that's what we mean by overall energy of the system. So that's where your energy changes are coming from when these processes happen. Okay, clear? Have a better idea? Come on, guys, you need to tell me.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
just a small thing. Ma'am, you mentioned the energy change, right? Like, from a neutral gaseous atom to forming a lattice, the energy change. But
Yeah.
you didn't specify, is it releasing energy or like absorbing energy? Or do we just keep it as it is?
That's a very good point. So if it's a more stable system, it will always release energy. But if it's an unstable system, if you're like having to force it to be like that, then you have to put in energy. So it's like energy is absorbed in that case. So more often than not,
Could you give examples?
yeah. So ionic compounds, formation of ionic compounds may like formation of NaCl. Like NaCl is formed very easily. That is because energy is released. Because NaCl crystal is more stable than having independent Na and independent chlorine gas. Okay. So, okay. So another way of putting lattice enthalpy is, so it is the energy required to completely separate 1 mole of solid ionic compound into gaseous constituent ions. So lattice enthalpy, it's the energy required because when you have ionic compound ka crystal, you have the positive ions and the negative ions. All right, let me just change the color. So the positive ions and the negative ions are like tightly bonded against each other. Now you have electrostatic forces of attraction between them. So if you have to break this crystal apart, like if you have to separate all of them out, you need to act against this force. Like imagine you're pulling two attracted magnets away from each other. You have to put in some amount of force. Matlab you're spending energy to do that. No, it's not easy. So that's why the energy required to completely separate all of them. So it's basically the energy required to break all of these bonds, separate 1 mole of solid ionic compound into gaseous constituent ions is called lattice enthalpy.
Isn't it
So
the other way around?
no, so like this is the technical definition. Like usually,
Okay.
yeah, like it's good to have a particular standard, right? If I say NaCl has lattice enthalpy of 566 kilojoules and MgCl2 has lattice enthalpy of, I don't know, 445 kilojoules. Now, if I don't mention a positive or a negative value, it's going to be a little confusing. So this is like basically the standard that is taken so that whenever you do a comparison of lattice enthalpy, you know that, oh yeah, this is the measurement that we have taken that way.
Got it, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. So lattice enthalpy is the energy required. See, another way to think about it is if X amount of energy is required to break all of these bonds, then when you consider the reverse process where these bonds are being formed, X amount of energy will be released. So
Can you repeat that again?
yeah. So you have gaseous ions forming a lattice. Abhi, if X joules are released in this process, मतलब gaseous ions में X joules extra energy है compared to lattice. That is why when lattice is being formed, all this extra energy is being released. So now if you want to do the reverse process, अगर lattice से gaseous ions convert करना चाहते हो, like lattice structure है, and you want to break all of them apart to form gaseous ions, then ये भी reverse हो जाएगा. If X joules is released, you need
It
to
will be absorbed.
you need to add like X joules needs to be absorbed so that the lattice can turn into gaseous ions. So this value is the same. The positive negative part only changes depending on how you're looking at it. So lattice enthalpy is the energy required to completely separate 1 mole of ionic compound into gaseous constituent ions. Okay. So the main thing, like the main point of comparison is higher the lattice energy, more stable is the compound. So if you have a lot of energy being released during this process, at the very minimum, it needs to overcome the sum total of ionization enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy. So as long as it compensates for that, then the ionic compound is a stable compound, and the universe is like okay with that compound being formed that way. But if the lattice enthalpy, if this lattice energy is very low, low enough that these two are not being compensated, then that ionic compound won't be formed. That's the simple logic. So that's what it says here. So if lattice enthalpy is greater than ionization plus electron gain enthalpies, then the net result is release of energy, and the ionic compound is basically, you can like it forms. So for example,
And if the lattice enthalpy, sorry to cut you off.
go ahead.
So if it's the other way around, energy is absorbed, right?
Yeah. So unless you give it heat, the ionic compound won't be formed. So it's unstable. So without your interference, that ionic compound is not going to be formed that way.
Okay, ma'am.
So as long as, like, if you cut off that heat supply or that energy supply, you're not going to have the compound. It's going to break down again. Okay. So if you look at it, these are like the actual calculated values. So in the formation of NaCl, the enthalpy of lattice formation is minus 788 kilojoules per mole. So this minus represents the fact that when NaCl lattice is being formed, 788 kilojoules of energy is being released. Ionization enthalpy is 495.8 kilojoules, which means that you need to give this much energy to produce 1 mole of Na plus ions. And electron gain enthalpy is minus 348 kilojoules, which means that this much energy is released when 1 mole of Cl minus ions are formed from Cl. Okay, so the overall change in energy when NaCl formed, if you count it, if you consider it, change in energy in formation of Na is 495.8, electron gain is minus 348, and lattice is minus 788. So if you add all of these, are you going to get a positive value or negative value?
Negative.
Ma'am, I had a doubt.
Yeah.
Over there it said that higher the lattice enthalpy, more stable the compound is. So, do we take only the magnitude of lattice enthalpy, or like if it's minus 100, would it be more
You
stable
take
than
only the magnitude.
only the magnitude?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this minus basically represents energy is released or absorbed. So that's what it says. Like, is it a forward process or a backward process? So yeah, high lattice enthalpy matlab you need to consider the number that is here. Okay. So yeah, so the overall thing is negative, which favors the formation of NaCl. Negative matlab overall energy is being released, इसलिए NaCl is like you can NaCl forms. Okay, clear about lattice enthalpy and clear about like why lattice enthalpy is important?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So lattice enthalpy itself depends on, it's not like a completely out of the blue this thing. Like qualitatively, you can predict how the lattice enthalpy is going to be. So one, it depends on the charge on the ions. So greater is the charge on the ions, greater is the lattice enthalpy. So more charge matlab more lattice enthalpy. So if you compare NaCl, CaCl2 and AlCl3, Na has a +1 charge, Ca has a +2 charge, Al has a +3 charge. So AlCl3 will have maximum lattice enthalpy, followed by CaCl2, followed by NaCl. Similarly, can you predict which has the highest lattice enthalpy? I'll give you a bunch of compounds you need to predict. Comparison between K. All right, let's stick with this only. NaCl, Na2O, or let's do this smaller atom. So LiCl, lithium chloride, Li2O, and Li3N. Which has the greatest lattice enthalpy? Can you predict?
Ma'am, I had a question. Do we take the difference between the charges into account, or should we only take the charge of the cation into account?
Charge, like over you
Right
need to
now,
take
the
into account.
cation will have the same charge, right?
Yeah,
Only the anion will differ.
exactly. So you need to take into account both cation and anion ka charge. In
Yeah, so
this
we take
case,
this one net charge, right?
yeah. So which one?
Li2O should have the greatest lattice enthalpy.
Can you repeat that? Li?
Li2O.
Okay. What is your logic behind that?
Okay, so my logic behind, so first thing I noticed is that cations are the same.
Yes.
So I have to look at the anions for the charge difference, or like,
Yeah.
yeah. So chlorine is -1, oxygen is -2,
Hmm.
and nitrogen is -3. No, yeah. Oh, sorry. Then it's Li3N. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. What about others? Ansh, what do you think?
I think it's LiCl.
You think it's a Sid says LiCl. Okay. What is your logic, Sid?
The other two are negative. I mean, they're lesser, like it's going -2 or -3, and that has -1.
Again, like, okay, this,
So that's why, should I look at the chart? Should I look at the sign over here, or do I not look at it?
you shouldn't. Like, the only difference is that positive indicates electrons have been lost, negative indicates electrons have been gained. But 3 units of negative charge versus 1 unit of negative charge. So
Okay,
that's
so
how we
higher the
think
magnitude.
of it. Yeah.
Okay, then
Yeah.
Li3.
Yeah. Cool. Good. What about the rest? Haven't got an answer from the rest of you. Ansh, Triti, Ishita, Mayas,
I think Li3N.
Li3N. You also say Li3N. Okay. Taranum has given the order. Very nice. So Taranum also says Li3N has maximum, followed by Li2O, followed by LiCl. Driti is also sent in. Cool. All right.
Yes, ma'am. Li.
Yeah. Got it. Now, how do you look at it when you're comparing energies or comparing charges? So even though you have like positive, negative charges, that's giving you more of a qualitative data. So you don't take it extremely mathematically. You need to consider the magnitude in these kind of comparisons. Okay. Next, lattice enthalpy also depends on size of the ions. So smaller the ions, greater is the lattice enthalpy. So if you see here, if you compare NaF, NaCl, NaBr, and NaI, charge is the same, like all of them singly charged cations, singly charged anions. But each of these compounds is differing in the size of their anions. So fluorine is the smallest, followed by chlorine, followed by bromine, followed by iodine. So you can think of this as lattice enthalpy relates to packing of the particles, right? If you take a bunch of basketballs versus if you take a bunch of, I don't know, sand, which one is more tightly packed? Which one will be more tightly packed?
Basketball.
Hey,
Ma'am, did you say sand?
yeah. So
Sand.
basketballs ka packing is going to be like this. And if you take another tank full of sand grains, in which case is packing more tight,
Sand.
right? Like think of it visually, sand.
There is hardly any airspace between sand particles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that way packing is better when size of the particle is smaller. So that way greater, like smaller the size of the ions, then greater is the lattice enthalpy. And also like lattice enthalpy is all about like attraction, right? So greater is the charge, then greater is the lattice enthalpy because attraction also will be greater.
I have a
Logical?
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Over here, we're changing the anions, but what if we change the cations? Would the same law apply?
Absolutely. All right. So if you want to compare lithium chloride, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, and rubidium chloride. So which is the smallest ion in this case?
Lithium
Lithium
chloride.
chloride. Yeah.
Lithium.
So which do you think will have the greatest lattice enthalpy?
Lithium chloride.
Lithium
Lithium
chloride.
chloride. Yes.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, when we're comparing the size of the ions,
Mm-hmm.
okay, here we're taking like cations from the same group. What if it's LiCl and it's MgCl2?
Same.
How do we compare them? No, I'm
Same.
talking about the
Okay.
size of the ion.
All right.
Charge thing.
So again, same thing, right? Like as the charge increases, size decreases. So there is like both of them are going hand in hand. Okay, if you want to compare LiCl and MgCl2, size of Li is definitely
Smaller
less
in
than
comparison to MgCl.
Mg2 plus. Li plus will be less than Mg2 plus. But in this case, the charge is greater, right? In
Yeah.
that case, I'll have to check the actual values. I'll let you guys know which one will take
Okay.
precedence. Okay. Nice. That's a good question.
Okay.
So if you have like cross this thing, yeah.
Ma'am, I have one more question.
Sure.
So I don't know, I might be thinking of this in the wrong way, but in the size of the ions, if you look at it in the terms of anions, it makes sense because smaller it is, the more the strength of the nucleus, the more it can attract, and more the bond energy stronger it is. Am I correct with that? And if you look at cations, the smaller it is, the harder it is to give the valence electron away. So I don't.
No.
So
So that, no, yeah, that's not how you look at it. Yeah.
Miss,
Yeah.
I did not understand what he asked only.
So no, Sid was asking like anions ke case mein, if the ions are smaller, then attraction of the nucleus is more, so you know the ion can form easily. But in the case of cations, so Sid, what you're talking about is formation of the cations and anions itself. But in when you're looking at lattice energy, you already have the cations and anions. Now, this relates to the attractive forces between a cation versus an anion. So, if you have two large ions versus two smaller ions, in which case would you have greater forces of attraction?
too small ions.
Smaller, because like distance between the cores is smaller, isliye. like the overall this thing itself is smaller. Okay, so
Right.
yeah, now like you already have the ions formed, so now you have to purely look at what is the interaction between the ions that way. Mitali, I will get back to you on that, huh? So if you have Li versus Mg, like you
Yes,
have
ma'am.
opposing.
Or should I like look it up now while you answer the other question?
Anybody else has any other questions?
No, ma'am.
No?
Ma'am.
Okay. Look it up later then. For now, I'll just go
Okay,
to the
ma'am. I'll
next
look it up
part.
later and get back to you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So lattice enthalpy is one major criteria when it comes to ionic bonds. Then in the case of covalent bonds, like this, other bond parameters will come into picture majorly in the case of covalent bonds. The first one is bond length. Just like the name describes, bond length means it's basically the length of the bond. Exactly how you measure it, it's basically the equilibrium distance between the nuclei of the bonding atoms. Now, what do you mean by equilibrium distance? Like, why is this word here? Any ideas you guys got? So the reason why we call it equilibrium distance, we'll touch upon that again when we're discussing the hybrid, like hybridization and all of that, formation of hydrogen atom. But tab tak, I just want to know, have you guys got any idea why equilibrium is used?
From the diagram, I can see that the distance between the two things is the same, even though the size is different between the
How is it the
centers.
same? नहीं, यहाँ पे 74
74 and
पिकोमीटर्स
161
है,
pico.
ये 161 है,
Yeah.
तो सेम नहीं है ना? नहीं, the main point equilibrium because when two atoms are coming close to each other in order to share their electrons, now this nucleus will attract the electron cloud, like its own electron clouds it's hanging on to, and it will attract the neighboring atom's electron cloud also, because positive versus negative. Now this nucleus also will attract the opposite one's electron cloud. But there is repulsion between the electron cloud of this versus electron cloud of this. So both of them, like if they come too close to each other, there is repulsion of electrons. If they're too far away from each other, like there is no bond being formed there. So there is like one particular distance that all the forces are balanced and all of like both the atoms are happy. Like they like keeping this particular distance between each other. So that is the reason. So the attractive forces and the repulsive forces are at equilibrium with each other. So that's why you call it equilibrium distance between the nuclei of the bonding atoms. Okay. Now that point was important because yeah, we'll come back to it. It relates to the energy changes and everything also. But yeah, for bond length, it's not just any random distance between the two nuclei. It is the equilibrium distance between the two bonding atoms ka nuclei. And the unit measurement is in picometers because that's literally at the scale of the size of the atom. You can practically measure it by means of X-ray diffraction and electron diffraction techniques. So the contribution towards the bond length in a covalent molecule is the covalent radius of the atom. So this, when we were discussing covalent radius, we discussed. So agar identical atoms hai, like in the case of H2, then half of this distance becomes the covalent radius. But otherwise, even for like heteroatomic molecules also, the bond length is basically covalent radius of hydrogen plus covalent radius of iodine, kind of like that. Okay. Bond length, trend of bond length increases with the size of the atom. This is pretty logical. Like if you have a greater, like a bigger atom, then obviously bond length will also increase क्योंकि nucleus will be farther away. Bond length decreases with bond multiplicity. So bond multiplicity का मतलब single bond versus double bond versus triple bond. So the more number of electrons that are being shared between two atoms, the shorter is the bond length going to be. Okay, makes sense? Like if you have multiple electrons being shared, then they'll have to be like closer to one another because the electron cloud is like more concentrated between the two atoms. So if you add one more electron pair, it has to be like really close to each other. So all three of them are shared. So as the bond multiplicity increases, bond length decreases. The atoms get closer to each other. So single bonds have the maximum bond length, followed by double bonds, followed by triple bonds. Clear about everything about bond length?
Got it, ma'am.
Yeah. Next parameter is bond angle. So bond angle, again self-explanatory. It is the angle between two bonds. More specifically, it's the angle between the orbitals containing the bonding electron pairs around the central atom in a molecule. Thoda complicated hai, but like the sense of it is the same thing. So you have the central atom. Central atom may, like, it has orbitals containing this iska electron. Now the angle between this orbital and this orbital, like this has one bonding pair of electrons, this has the other bonding pair of electrons, so the angle between these two is the bond angle. And unit is how you measure all the bond angles in degrees. This also can be measured by spectroscopic methods. Then given an idea of distribution of orbitals and hence the
Miss, what is spectroscopic methods?
So again, like basically by studying the spectrum of specific compounds, like you have resonance imaging, like all of, like there are certain okay, this even I'm not aware of because it goes way into graduate physics, graduate chemistry. So by studying the spectrum, it gives you information like based on, so if you look at the absorption emission spectra, it gives you like based on which wavelength of light you can figure out what is the energy level, right, between the different transition. That way, if you study like if you conduct more spectroscopic experiments on compounds, on molecules, it gives you the information about the bond length and bond angle and all of that, because it all depends on the energies of these particular bonds and everything. So if you want, I can look up if there's any visual on YouTube as to how these experiments are conducted, and I'll send it to you guys on the group. Okay. Okay. So, but otherwise clear on what bond angle is and what it represents and all that?
Yes, miss.
Yeah. So basically, based on the bond angle, you can figure out what is the shape of the molecule. Next parameter is bond enthalpy. Enthalpy, again, I've told you, it's like it is related to the energy. So it's basically the amount of energy required to break 1 mole of a particular type of bond between two atoms in gaseous state. And because it is energy, iska unit hai kilojoules per mole. Now this is important to say 1 mole because obviously there needs to be a standard when you're comparing bond enthalpy of two different compounds. You can't break 1 molecule ka bond, or like 3 molecules for this compound and 5 molecules for this other compound and compare both of them, because then they are going to be completely different values. So that's why your standard for measurement is basically you just take 1 mole of compound and you compare the energy differences between both. So that's why it's kilojoules per mole. Greater the bond enthalpy, stronger is the bond. This makes sense because if the amount of energy required to break it is more, like if you have to spend more energy to break a particular bond, it means the bond is strong. So greater the bond enthalpy, stronger is the bond. The exact measurement is complicated in polyatomic molecules, like for example, water. So there's H2O. So the mean or average bond enthalpy is used. So what this means is, if you have water, water is made of 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogen, right? There is a bond enthalpy associated with hydrogen number 1, and there is a bond enthalpy associated with oxygen and hydrogen number 2. Now both these bonds, like even though they are between hydrogen and oxygen, when you're practically measuring it, right, like when you're giving energy, like be it electrical or heat or whichever way, when you're trying to break one bond, you measure certain energy, let's say E1. Then when you go ahead and break this other bond and measure E2, both of them have completely different values. So because when you break, let's say you've got H2O, you broke one bond and you got HO plus hydrogen atom. Now this particular species is different from H2O. That is the reason the bond enthalpy between oxygen and the second hydrogen also changes, because the species itself is changing. So for convenience sake, when you say bond enthalpy of OH bond in water, it basically stands for the mean or average of both of these bond enthalpies. So another
Ma'am,
example.
I have a question before. Just a second.
Huh.
So in my previous grade, I did bond enthalpies or change in enthalpies, bit like bond forming, bond breaking, wala entire thing. There are specific values for, like, you know how you said OH, the
Mhm.
bond between O and H. That
Yeah.
specific value is given, and based on that, I calculated it. So could, like, bond enthalpy, it's the same thing what I did then, right? The minimum amount of energy
Yeah,
required
yeah,
to
it is.
one
It is the
bond.
same thing, but this is in more depth, with more clarity. That was just,
Yeah,
we just had to calculate it easily with the values already
exactly.
given to us.
So in this case, yeah, like, and this is specific only in polyatomic molecules, because it is just to tell you that when you're practically measuring it, both these bonds are not equivalent. Like once one hydrogen is removed, this particular bond ka like the enthalpy changes. So that's what this is mentioning.
So can I say that to break, like, what you have water molecule right now,
Mhm.
and you try to, like, you remove that one hydrogen atom. So can I say that like for the second hydrogen atom, the enthalpy increases?
Increases or decreases, again it would depend on the species and
Like, it's too
everything, that I'll have to
technical, correct?
check. Yeah, but overall, like when, like in your calculation or further in the chapter, whenever you come across the term bond enthalpy in a polyatomic molecule, you have to like understand that it's basically mean of both of these bond enthalpies, that way.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what is the information given. Same thing in the case of methane here. While breaking CH4, the bond enthalpy of the individual CH changes in the process of removing each hydrogen one at a time. So the average of all of these values is used for CH ka bond enthalpy in CH4. So initially, when CH4 is a compound, all these bonds are equivalent, because one, all of them are single bonds. Two, they're all bonds between the same atoms, carbon and hydrogen. So all of them should be equivalent. Like when you rotate it, do it, it shouldn't make a difference at all. But practically, if you want to measure what each bond enthalpy is, you don't get the same value for each successive hydrogen, like while breaking each successive hydrogen. So that is the reason you use the mean of all four values. That's basically it. Okay. Next comes bond order. So bond order is basically how many, like single bond, double bond, triple bonds. It's number of bonds between two atoms. Isoelectronic molecules and ions have identical bond orders. So what this means is, if the total number of valence electrons is the same, like if you have species that are isoelectronic, no, if the total number of electrons is the same when you're considering two molecules or ions, then they will have identical bond orders. So if there's a total of uh, if they're supposed to have double bonds, then either you'll end up like that particular species having two single bonds or one double bond, I say. So like bond order is the number of bonds. Number of bonds stands for the number of electrons that are being shared. So if the total number of electrons shared are the same, then the bond orders also will be identical. As the bond order increases, bond enthalpy increases and bond length decreases. So this we have already considered. So if you have single bond, double bond and triple bond, triple bond will have, this is the shortest bond, smallest bond length, and the bond enthalpy also increases, which makes sense, right? Cutting one bond versus like cutting two bonds versus cutting three bonds. So this is going to definitely going to take more amount of energy as compared to single or double. So if you compare carbon-carbon single, double and triple bond, maximum bond enthalpy is in C triple bond C, minimum enthalpy is in C single bond C. And length, if you see, this single bond will have maximum length and triple bond will have minimum length. Okay, all of these are it's basically observations and conclusions on all these bond parameters and information, basically. Okay. So before we get to resonance structure, are you guys clear about the different bond parameters? So 1, you have bond length. 2, you have bond order. 3, you have bond enthalpy. And 4, you have, what else? Bond angle, like angle between the bonds. So these 4 parameters basically describe what your shape and size of the molecule is going to be. It's going to give you an idea about stability also, because we're considering bond enthalpy. The shape, size and stability of the molecule. Okay. Coming to resonance structures. Okay. Resonance structure. So some compounds can be represented by multiple Lewis structures. Now, any of these structures on its own does not describe the molecule accurately. Like description of the molecule, matlab, if you measure the bond length, the bond enthalpy, and all of these quantifiable things, it's not going to be accurate to what is drawn in the Lewis structure. So ozone is like a textbook example that is given, but you can also observe that in nitrite ion. So NO2 minus, we've seen that the double bond can be applicable for either of these oxygens. Sorry. O, N, double bond O. So the double bond can belong to either the oxygen atom on the left or on the right. Now, this should mean that if you measure the bond length and bond enthalpy, they should be different for both of these. But that is not the case, because like theoretically one is double bond, one is single bond, so one oxygen should be shorter than the other oxygen ka bond. But practically if it is measured, that is not the case. Like the same thing is happening in ozone also. So ozone structure, like I don't know if it is clear here, but it's the same situation as nitrite ion. So one oxygen में यहाँ पे you have double bond, यहाँ पे you have single bond. The double bond can belong to either of these oxygens. ऐसे भी हो सकता है या फिर ऐसे भी हो सकता है. But practically when you measure, both these bonds happen to have identical lengths and identical energies, which is not the case when you're drawing the Lewis structures, right? So what the conclusion is that this double bond is not it's not static. It does not belong to only one of these two oxygens, but both of these structures are existing simultaneously. So technically what is happening is, so यहाँ पे you have lone pairs of oxygen, right? So these get into the mix and there is constant delocalization of electrons. So the lone pair on this oxygen is going to, like, so basically the double bond oxygen is going to attract this pair of electrons towards itself. तो यहाँ पे एक थोड़ा सा partial positive charge आएगा. So that's going to attract one of the lone pairs towards itself. So in that case, यहाँ पे you have like 3 lone pairs of electrons, यहाँ पे you have like a double bond, and that keeps like shifting continuously. And so these two individual structures, like what we call it is, both of these structures exist in resonance with each other. And it's not like, you know, it's not happening like this deal, like this shifting of the electrons is not happening in real time. Like you can't detect ki, acha, abhi is nanosecond mein measure kiya, to it's like this, in the other nanosecond it's like that. Like that is also not true. The electrons are like constantly delocalized. It exists more like practically, like in real life, it like exists more like this, where single bond to is there with either of these atoms, and there's like a partial double bond nature with both of these atoms. So the way to visualize it is, electron exists as electron clouds, right? So imagine one of those electron clouds is spread out over throughout this molecule, let's say. So the electron is like delocalized and is traveling throughout completely over this. So that's how you can imagine it as. All right. Understood, like clear about resonance structure? Like, do you
Now,
guys?
can we take one more example, like besides ozone?
Yeah. Another example would be carbonate ion.
CO3 minus.
Huh. Just one moment. Or I'll just open the whiteboard. Okay. What is the structure for carbonate? So you've got CO3 minus, 2 minus. So carbon is center.
Then
Oxygen.
double bond
Mm.
and lone pair.
So one of them has a double bond, and then of course like 2 minus is basically on oxygen. Yeah. This is the carbonate ka structure, right? Now, ye double bond keeps alternating between all 3 oxygens. Okay. So the way this works out is, let me erase this part. Two, three, four, five, six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this one has only 2 lone pairs. Okay. So this, you have a minus extra. Now this pair of electrons, like one bond though will always be there, the extra pair of electrons, now this is going to shift over here, and because then carbon will then lack electrons, so it will attract one of these lone pairs towards itself. So another structure for this will be, यहाँ पे O minus हो जाएगा because got extra pair of electrons, extra electron. Double bond इधर आ जाएगा, and this one still has 6 electrons. And then same thing happens. Then this
Yeah,
will
same thing
attract
with the third
electron,
one.
and this will happen here. Okay.
So the resonance hybrid for this is?
So resonance hybrid, one moment. This has only 2 pairs. Okay. And then this comes back to the original thing. So the resonance hybrid can be written as COOO. Now, because this pair of electrons is being shared by all of them, right? So all of them will have similar bond characteristics, something like this.
Ma'am, you still fill in the electrons, right? Like on oxygen.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay. So the like one pair of electrons is like constantly delocalized among all 3 oxygen atoms. So this is important that in a resonance hybrid, the bond that is like sometimes there, sometimes not there, is represented using a dashed line. A solid line represents that, oh, the bond is definitely there and these electrons are like settled. They're connecting this oxygen and carbon. But the delocalized electrons, so this word delocalized, naam mein hi hai. So they are not local. They are delocalized. They're like moving everywhere. So the delocalized electrons are represented by a dashed line. And you need to get comfortable with this word. Resonance is really, really, really important. We'll come across a lot of this in organic chemistry. So a lot of structures of aromatic compounds, they're characterized by delocalization of electrons. And because electrons are delocalized, like that in turn affects a lot of reactivity and reaction mechanisms of those compounds. So it's like resonance is a very important concept. You need to identify where it comes from and all of that. Okay. So technically speaking, if you consider any one of these structures, you need to identify that there are 2 single bonds plus 1 double bond in a carbonate ion. But practically when you measure, all 3 bonds are very equivalent to each other. The kind of bond orders, bond enthalpies that you get, you can't identify it with a single bond. Like carbon dioxide does not have resonance. You have 2 double bonds there. So you know, you have an idea ki what a double bond ka bond length and bond order looks like between carbon and oxygen. Now you won't find that in a carbonate ion. The measured values are going to be somewhere between a single and a double bond. So the bond length, bond energy, all of the bond parameters basically. Okay. And resonance is important because this delocalization, now because the electrons, like the whole cloud is spread out over the whole of the molecule, the more resonance there is, the more resonance structures that are possible, the more stable is the atom or ion or molecule. So if you have 2 different molecules and both of them, if you measure, one of them has more number of resonance structures, you can say 100% sure that the one with more number of resonance structures is the more stable molecule. And if something is more stable, you know that, you know, like uska reactivity and all of that is affected. Like it'll be less reactive. It's more likely to form different things like that. This way, like, you can also explain why carbonic acid you won't find a lot, like sulfuric acid or like other things, but carbonate ion is readily formed. Like, that's why you have sodium carbonate, potassium carbonate, and all of these things, because carbonate ion is favored, like it is stabilized by resonance, so carbonate ion exists without a lot of trouble. Okay, so I'll just read out the points about resonance. So some compounds can be represented by multiple Lewis structures. So any of these structures on its own does not describe the molecule accurately. Now, all of these structures have similar positions of the nuclei, bonding and non-bonding electron pairs. So the basic skeleton of the structure did not change, even in the case of carbonate ion, right? Only the double bond ka lone pair electrons jo hai, only those have been delocalized. But the bond pairs, the initial ones, have remained as it is. So the positions of the nuclei, bonding and non-bonding electron pairs mein, there's not a lot of difference. They're very similar. In such a case, a hybrid model correctly describes the actual structure of the molecule using the dashed line. Okay. So each of these individual ones are called resonance structures, and this whole phenomenon, like this, you know, the fact that this delocalization is there, so this whole thing is called resonance. So resonance stabilizes the molecule as energy of resonance hybrid is less than the energy of any single structure. Yeah, at this I've already mentioned that resonance is like if you have more number of resonance structures, more stable it is. So if you identify that, oh yeah, this particular species has resonance, it's gonna be stable. Stability matlab overall energy is less than any single structure. Now the resonance averages out the bond characteristics. This is what I mentioned, like the bond length will be between single and double, like it'll be average of both of them. Bond energy also is between this thing. So the individual canonical forms do not actually exist. The molecule exists only as a resonance hybrid. It's not like if you measure at 10:10 a.m. you will find this. If you measure at 10:12 a.m. you'll find this. Like ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. So anytime you see, you will see only a resonance hybrid. Like electrons are just delocalized here and there. Okay. So individual forms do not exist. In reality, molecule exists only as the resonance hybrid. This is like another fun question. All the ClO bond lengths in ClO4 minus are 144 picometers. So basically all the 4 bond angles are equivalent. Sorry, all the 4 bond lengths are equivalent. Explain by drawing the structure. And 144 picometers, like it's between single and double bond. So you need to draw all of the resonance structures for this particular thing. Okay. Okay. So now we have polarity of bonds. Polarity dipole moment के बाद, okay, VSEPR आ रहा है. All right. How's it going so far? Like resonance तक समझ में आ गया?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it is 5:17 now. Do we want to do you guys want to complete polarity tak today itself, or do you want to take it up next class?
How much is left?
A lot of this chapter is left. We're going to take another 2
No,
classes for
no,
it
till
anyway.
polarity, how much is left?
Next class.
Yeah, but polarity and dipole moment go hand in hand, no? Either
So
we do
we must
both
do
of
it next
them.
class only.
Yeah.
No, polarity, yeah, definitely. That's why. Because if I start polarity, it's going to take another 20 minutes, like to practice and everything.
I need an off.
Yeah,
Bye, miss. Thank you,
figured.
miss.
Yeah, because this chapter, just like atomic structure, is another heavy chapter. So, all right. So in that case, resonance tak whatever we discussed, I'll give you guys some practice questions. It won't be a lot this time. I'll give like 20-ish questions, just so you guys can be in touch before we get to the next class. Okay,
Okay, miss.
Okay, ma'am.
cool.
Bye,
And you
miss.
don't have
Thank
to
you,
do it
miss.
today. I would suggest do it like tomorrow, so that it's like you're not concentrating everything on one day. Okay, cool.
Goodbye, mom. Thank you.
Okay,
All
ma'am.
right.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.